Good afternoon, everybody. It's Annette Densham here, live with Obsessed, and I'm joined today by intrepid traveller Susan Jagganath, who's here to talk to us about travelling and writing books and becoming a bestseller. Susan, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Annette. It's lovely to see and hear you again, and it's great to be with a group of people who are obsessed with what they want to do.
Isn't it great? There's so many people out there who are just thrilling in the opportunity to share things that they love, and we love sharing that. And I'm really excited today to be sharing with our listeners and viewers all about your travels, because you are quite the traveller and you've written a number of books. So
that's right.
How many books have you written on traveling so far?
I have 3 books. I've got 3 books. Yeah. So that was my first one on the Camino.
So you did the Camino Trail?
Yeah. So that was my very first book. This is my second one on a Himalayan trek. And this is my third one, which I just published. And I don't have a print copy of it as yet, because Amazon is taking a very long time to ship to Australia. And so I really didn't bother about that. And I just went ahead and did the ebook anyway, because I said, people want to read ebooks on their Kindles nowadays. The hardcore print books can wait.
They'll catch up eventually.
Well, they have, they're available, but by the time it comes to Australia, it's really late.
Oh, I know. Everything's taking so long at the moment. I've got something coming from China that I ordered in January, and I'm maybe it was on that ship that got hit by those waves and it fell off in the container. But it's all good. When did travel become an obsession for you? Like, what was it that triggered your desire to travel?
Well, I always traveled, and it's just that I'm from India, so I've traveled a long way to get to Australia. But before that, my dad was in the army, so we traveled all the time. We didn't stay in a place for more than 2 years, and we went to different places. And we always loved to travel internally in India, all kinds of places. Being in the army, we were in all kinds of really dodgy hotspots. And so we really, I didn't think that I loved travel. I thought it was just, it's normal to travel and you move around and you change. So I think I've been in 9 different schools, 3 universities, and I don't know, it never affected me. Afterwards, when I heard people saying, oh, it's so difficult, children should be in one school and they get developmentally problems. And I thought, what? Nothing happened to me.
But totally normal.
Totally not. Maybe I'm not, which is, a bit frightening. But then, of course, you start, you get married, you have kids, you get a job, and all that happened. And in the middle of that, we came to Australia. So I only started traveling again in about 10 years ago, maybe, we started the type of travel which we wanted to do was hiking and trekking. A lot of that was to do with fitness, because I found that I just love to walk. And, Australia is such a beautiful place to walk that it's so empty. I just loved it. So we are out in the bushland, where in Brisbane is such a gorgeous place. You can just look out, step out of your door, and you'll find yourself a beautiful park to walk in. So we were always walking about, and then I started talking. I heard about the Camino, and I did the Camino, and I had no intention to write a book about the Camino. But after we did this particular Camino, when we went there, I found that all the information I had about the Camino was wrong. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book about it. And that's how it started.
So you're talking about like the guidebooks and stuff on the internet. How can people get that wrong? Like, it's a big, long path. There's lots of times to get it right.
The stuff, I did a smaller one, less known. But even with the longer ones, people take it, when you've done something many times, you take it for granted. Now, okay, when I reach Spain, what do I do? Do I book a hotel, or can I just walk into a hostel? So those kind of obvious things were not there. And then there were also a lot of other things which were not very clear. If you're coming from Australia, how long does it actually take you to start walking? All those kind of stuff. So I had no intention of writing a book. Once I started, I couldn't stop. And after that, every time I have an adventure, I write a book about it, because it's kind of, you should share it with other people. So, and also, when I started doing my walks, I was well over 50. And people were saying, oh, I was thinking, yeah, I'm not going to get old. I'm not buying into this old nonsense. I can do anything. And so that was mostly for fitness. And we started walking. And I think when your kids are a bit grown up, you can actually go away for weeks on end and walk. You don't have to just fly in and fly out like a mad person and not have a holiday. Whereas when you're actually hiking, whether it's in Australia or whether it's abroad, when you're walking, you've got your feet on the ground and you're slowing down, and you're at a pace which we are meant to walk. We evolved as walkers, really, human beings. So we're meant to walk at that pace, and it really settles you down, and you have great experiences.
So when you started writing books, did you consider yourself a writer, or it was something new to you?
Not really, Annette. I've been a writer all my life, but I've been like a technical writer in computers and IT. So I've been writing computer manuals and online help. That stuff which you never read, and then you ring up the help desk. Yeah. So
you kind of go, why isn't this working? And you're silently going in your head, read the instructions, doofus.
Exactly. So that's what we wrote. I wrote for many years. So writing the guidebooks wasn't really too hard for me. But it was, the exciting thing about it is that when you write for another company, or you write as a technical writer, you never get your name on it. But when you write your own book, you get your name on it, and that's pretty good. Yes, so it's
that's really cool. So,
yes,
you've published 3 books. So are they self-published, or did you go through a publisher to get those done?
Oh no, they're all self-published. Why would I give my money away to anyone? No. Yeah. So
you can give it to me. I'm happy to take your money.
Yeah, well, I think traditional publishing is now only occupying 40% of the all books published, and places like Amazon and stuff, whatever you say about them, they've really set authors free. We now are no longer bound to whether a publisher wants to publish your book. So you now have the freedom to go and publish a really good book and have it succeed, or a really bad book and have it fail, but it's all your fault. So that's a great amount of freedom, really, for you.
For anybody except for yourself.
Yeah. So you can do the publishing yourself, but it's a big learning curve. And even though I was already a technical writer, I was already in IT, I'm familiar with computers, there was a lot to learn. And I had to learn a lot about what you know a lot about, Annette, marketing and promotion. So I had to...
That's the hard part, isn't it? It's kind of like, I can walk the trail, but then I've got to mark. Oh my God, I've got to talk about myself.
Yeah. No. Well, so they are, I go with I've got 4 P's, they're 4 P's. They sound a bit dodgy, but, you've got to be professional about your work. So even though it's self-published, it must never look self-published. I never attempt to do my own covers. All my covers are done by professional book artists, right? It's done by a graphic designer who's also a book artist. The formatting is perfect inside the book. It's as good as a published book. It has no typos, right? So that's professional, and I publish myself because I have full control over the book. For example, now the book was published a month ago. I'm going to push out a new edition tomorrow or day after with some virus stuff in the back of what's happening because of the pandemic, and what's happening in that area, what precautions you need to take. I can do that because I'm self-published. I can just go in and edit, right, and add to it.
It's not going to cost you a fortune.
No, absolutely not. And I think that it's really, self-publishing has set up a personal, even more of a personal relationship between the author and the reader. Readers talk to me directly, they email me, they tell me what they want to see. Or the main complaint is, Susan, we want more pictures in the book. And I say, yes, but then you'll have to pay me a lot of money because, pictures cost a lot of money. And even Amazon will not give you a Kindle book at a reasonable price if you have a whole heap of pictures in it. So you get to do that. And of course, the other P is to pivot. So to pivot is to match your book to the market and to the context. So a lot of people are saying pivot nowadays, but I've always thought of a pivot as turning perfectly to match what people want or what your readers want. So originally, this book, The Valley of Flowers, was a pure guidebook. It was just how to get there, what's the best, because guess what, when we went there, we still found the documentation was wrong. And
I don't get it, how they could get stuff like that wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think that people who are writing some of these books haven't actually been there?
I suspect so, because I've had a lot of people ask me, did you really walk the trail? And I'm thinking, yeah, how do I write the book? And apparently there are a lot of people who write travel books who've never been there. So who knows? But that's crazy. That's crazy. I think a lot of people who churn out a lot of books, but you know what happens, Annette? That nowadays with travel books, things change on the ground a lot. So if you've published a traditional guidebook 5 years ago, it's already out of date within 2 years. Yeah.
So I guess that's the beauty of Amazon, isn't it, Susan?
Yeah.
I don't know, we had a bit of a discussion in Obsessed with a few weeks ago about whether people like physical books or whether they like the ebooks. And there's a lot of people who still say, you know what, I love the books. I love the smell of the books. I love the feel of the books. And I'm a little bit more of an embracer of new ways of getting information. And I always think, well, what's the book about? Is it about the information or is it about the smell? So
well, some people want the whole experience.
Just putting it out there, like I don't know what your books smell like, but I smell mine and go, it's not really something that's turning me on.
That's true. I think it's familiarity. People like the familiarity and heft of a book, but that's maybe people who are not digital natives. The digital natives today, they just, younger people, they just want to read online. And if they're reading a book at all, if they're reading on Kindle, thank God, because they're reading. Give it to them in an ebook is my feeling about it. Yeah, I'm not. But you can do both, Annette. It's not hard. It's really not hard to do both. And I'm also
the cool thing about what you just said, Susan, is that young people are reading ebooks, and you know who read ebooks? Yeah. You and I. That makes us young.
We are young. Absolutely.
Oh my God, that's funny. So you said Valley.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just interrupted you. I'm a rude interviewer.
I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah, The Valley of Flowers, this book. Yeah.
Valley of Flowers. So what's that book about? Where did you go to be able to come up with all of those beautiful words?
I went to an actual place called the Valley of Flowers. It's a valley in the higher Himalayas, very high up. It's at about 4,000 meters and almost right at the top of the Himalayan range and verging where India touches Tibet, if you look at a map. So extremely high. And because of the particular aspect of this valley, in the summer, it actually bursts into bloom. You get the most beautiful flowers there for 3 months of the year. For the rest of the year, it's covered with glaciers. And the other valleys are still cold and windblown. But because this one sort of runs from east to west, it's kind of protected. And so it gets these most beautiful flowers in the monsoon. So if you want to see this Valley of Flowers, you have to go in the monsoon. You have to be ready to be soaked every day. There's no other way to do it, and it's very high. It's difficult to breathe. You have to acclimatize slowly, but it's absolutely amazing. The glaciers are still there, and waterfalls are bursting out of the glaciers, trickling down the streams, and you're getting these beautiful, brilliant green meadows full of flowers. So this valley was only found in about 80 years ago, when a British mountaineer stumbled out of a blizzard, and he found himself in this valley, and he thought he had died and gone to heaven.
Oh my God, really? Isn't that incredible that there's still places on this planet that we're only just discovering? So, Susan, how do you pick the places that you travel to? Like, do you have a map and you close your eyes and you go, that's where I'm going? Or have you got a bucket list of places that you've heard about or dreamed about and thought, you know what, that's my next destination?
I don't know what's going to happen to all our bucket lists in this day and age, Annette, but I never really had a bucket list. It's just things, like I said, I want to walk, and I look for places where I can trek and hike. And most of these places have come about by chance. For example, I had never heard of the Camino before until about 10 years ago. Someone talked about it, and then suddenly I saw the movie about it, and then I met other people who had done it. And so things conspired, and I thought that was a good thing to do. And I went and I did it, and it was amazing. The other book, this book of mine, Chasing Himalayan Dreams, right? This was a dream which I had. I had studied in Darjeeling in my first year of university. And as girls, we were not allowed to go out alone and do trekking because, that was India, 16-year-old girls are not going to be allowed to go and trek on their own. So that was a dream of mine, to go to this particular spot. And so finally I went when I was 60, which I think was a bit too late, but you have a dream, you do it eventually. So that was definitely a dream.
You don't look 60. Did you just say you're 60?
Yeah, I'm 63 actually.
Well, you certainly don't look at.
Well, you look
it must
about
be
20.
all of that walking. Yeah, I was
definitely.
50 on Saturday.
Nah, you're a baby. You don't look 50 either.
Oh my God, we're going to have a mutual respect and admiration club here, people. Just you listen in, and you can send us compliments. We'll take them.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, it must be the walking. It must be all that curry which I eat, and the chilies and the turmeric. Yeah, definitely that.
Oh, I think so. Well, chilies are full with vitamin C, and vitamin C is good for your skin, good for your immune system. Oh, there's something about Indian food that just is divine. We had Shalini on from Legally Shalini a few weeks ago, and she was talking about how to make the perfect Indian curry. So it was like, we need to do that. So I'm really quite fascinated about the Camino Trail, because I saw the movie as well and just went, that sounds amazing. Are there a lot of people walking it? Like, is it like a highway that you're walking, you're going, hi, or is it like a fairly solitary?
It could be. You have bits and pieces which are really crowded. Like the last, if you're on the Frances, which is the most popular one, which you've seen in The Way, the movie The Way, and other books. So that one is really crowded from about the last 100 kilometers. But in between, it's quite empty. And the Camino which we did, which was the Camino Inglés, was really, if we saw 2 pilgrims a day, we would be really excited. But it's it's not crowded at all. But even though the last time I went last year, because guess what? My book was getting outdated, and I was getting readers writing to me and being rude to me. So I had to go and do the walk again, and I did a completely updated edition. So my book the book which I was showing you was first published in 2016. The one which I published last year is complete. It's a complete new book, because I thought that there would just be a few changes on the path, but when we went and actually walked, they had rerouted the path completely. So it's totally different. I had to rewrite the whole book. So after that, I thought maybe I shouldn't write guidebooks, because I can't keep coming back and updating it. I want to go and do other walks.
Well, it's going to be difficult, like you said. Now, we don't know when we'll be allowed to travel again. Is it something that you can adapt to where you live? Like I know you just said that you step out of your door, you live in Brisbane, Queensland. For our international listeners, that's in Australia, Northern Australia, most beautiful state in Australia.
Absolutely.
Although at the moment, I think almost every other state think we're a bunch of nincompoops because we still got our borders closed. But is it something that you could write about where you live right now? Do you have to go and travel internationally to write an amazing book of adventures?
Well, absolutely not. You can write, wherever you are, and that I am planning to write I was planning to write a book of walks around Brisbane, and then I found that someone had already done it. So I thought, I don't know, but I might still do it, because after all, everyone has a different take on a walk. So I was thinking of, writing a book like 50 walks around Brisbane, and shorter walks. Because again, my idea is to get people out and walking, and there's so many beautiful walks right around Brisbane that you can, and we've done a lot of them. We've around Brisbane, and then further afield, we used to go camping down at northern rivers, so Mount Warning, Mount Barney, and then if you go west, you've got Spicer's Gap. Got beautiful walks there. So that is probably my plan for. That's probably my plan for next year, because this year I'm writing fiction this year, so I'm dipping my toes into fiction, and being a bit, you always, now I've got the travel books down pat. I can whack out a travel book like that. So now that it's become easy, I have to do something difficult, because I'm normal, aren't I?
Yeah, well, why rest on your laurels? Can you give us a bit of a sneak peek into what your book is about? What's the plot?
The fiction book?
Yes.
Well, the fiction, it's historical fiction, and I'm setting it at the intersection in the 14th century, where you first had the intersection with Spain, Portugal, and India, and you also had the Arabs and the Persians, everyone coming into India at that time. And that's barely written about. There's barely any information about it, but I'm writing about what happened to the people when, all these new influences came in. There were lots of battles, and there are little sneaky lines in the history books about the princess of this, or the Raja's aunt did this. And these women are not recorded in history at all, but obviously they've got one line here and there, so they did something. So they were feisty women in there with all their strictures. They were still there fighting and doing amazing things. Some of those things I read them and I think, what? A woman in the 14th century did this? She hired a ship and she imported horses? It's amazing. I don't know how to hire a ship and import horses today with the internet. I mean, I could try importing it from Alibaba, but I don't think Alibaba will sell a horse.
Well,
or Amazon.
Look, if your book's taken a while to come, I'm not sure how the horse will do.
But anyway, that's the plot. So it's basically historical fiction. It's you have obviously a female lead who's finding that her life, which she thought was going to be just as a princess and doing princessy things, is now turned on its head, and she has to fight for her country and fight for her people. That kind of thing. Oh, that
sounds amazing. So when does this book come out?
Oh God, I don't know, Annette. I've been killing the.
No pressure.
No pressure. I'm thinking about maybe the book is actually fully written. I'm on my third draft, but I had some research with it. I don't want to be totally wrong with it. On the other hand, some of my mentors are saying, it's fiction, Susan, let it go. But, I can't have someone picking up a mobile phone in the Middle Ages, so the equivalent of that. So I have to be a bit careful of the details so it is believable. I'm also having great difficulty finding out what people actually wore. Would you believe it? There's no documentation of what women actually wore in India in the 14th century. It's driving me nuts.
Wow.
So I'm just going to make it up. I mean,
well, I guess you could kind of like guess. Well, they certainly weren't wearing tights and muffin tops. So you're safe there.
They're still not.
So they're still not. Like I am definitely not. So your book, Valley of the Flowers, has gone bestseller?
Yes, it went bestseller within 2 days of publication in Australia. So thank you, Australians. I'm very happy, very grateful to you. And it's been bestseller twice in India, which I'm very happy about as well. It's been on the top 10 of Amazon.com, on and off, but it's sort of not tipping into the bestseller range. It's just frustrating me. But you know what, Annette? I've gone bestseller in Australia, gone bestseller in India. Who cares about the US? I'm a best-selling author.
Yeah, stuff you, US. We don't need you.
Well, it's in the top 10 in the US, which is good. And I even got a sale, 2 sales in Germany and 1 sale in Estonia.
Wow. Susan, you certainly are an incredible human being, and it's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you. If you would like, once we're finished, to drop your comments into the comment box, a link to the book, because anybody who's feeling a little stir crazy and would like to mentally walk the Camino or go see the Valley of the Flowers or go to the Himalayas, Susan's writing is certainly very beautiful and very up-to-date, as we've discussed. Susan, thank you for being on Obsessed Live Show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Annette. It's lovely talking to you again after a long time. We must do this again.
Yeah. I know where you are and you know where I am.
Yeah,
so thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
See you. Bye.